Are the animatronics in Secret of the Mimic truly just controlled by the Mimic, or is something far more sinister lurking beneath their exteriors? Well, we've uncovered some pretty chilling evidence that suggests some of the animatronics are not just programmed robots. So get ready to question everything you thought you knew about Secret of the Mimic, its animatronics. And I know I'd immediately like to address something here. You think I'm going to just talk about M1, right, and her being possessed? Open and shut case. Well, that's completely wrong. And you'll know from my other videos, there's a pretty strong case to suggest that M1 was possessed by Fiona's spirit. I only just talked about it in the last video, but let's rewind a second here. I missed a crucial bit of evidence, and a few people in the comments have actually pointed this out. And boy oh boy, has this completely changed what I thought we knew about Secret of the Mimic, and all the other mascot costumes. And we'll come onto them in just 1 minute. Now, if you're unaware, in the last video, I did a full breakdown on the secret room, well, the secret workshop, which Edwin had. You know, where we first come into contact with Fiona's spirit potentially coming through in an audio frequency log. You know, I'll just play it briefly for you here now.
This is where I heard it. It's her or someone that sounds like her. Set frequency to 4625. Say something! It's me, Edwin. Over.
That's good, honey, but finishing the party.
Now you couple that with all the other logs we find scattered throughout Secret of the Mimic, telling us that M1 just seemed to work. Edwin doesn't know how, but it just seemed to work, almost as if it was possessed by something. Couple it with the log we just heard, you'd assume that she was possessed by Fiona's spirit / ghost. I mean, the frequency 4625 is actually a frequency used by ghost hunters to make contact with spirits. So I thought it was a pretty open shut case that her spirit had come through to Edwin and somehow possessed M1. But in actual fact, I don't believe that to be the case, because what she actually says on that log seems like a pre-recorded message that a animatronic / mimic had heard and was simply playing back, which we could literally put down to one of them mushroom men which we knew was scattered throughout the factory, you know, the toys which can record voice lines and play back to you. We literally see it in one of their released videos before the game. So that bit makes sense, but it doesn't seem to explain M1's sentient-like behavior. I mean, even literally mimicking Fiona to a T. But we'll come back to M1 later, because there's several other animatronic / mascot costumes which seem to be possessed. And no, I'm not just talking about Tiger Rock. I know, which blew my mind, but hear me out because this is going to get wild. But let's go through them individually, one by one, so we can narrow it all down. Now let's look at the costumes we know are completely inanimate, which we know the Mimic takes over. All the standard ones we see throughout the factory. They're clearly not possessed / haunted. The Mimic goes inside of them. You know, like the elephant costume, the tiger costume, mushroom men, etc. That is just the Mimic inside of them, right? Again, I'll come back to M1 and M2 later. Now, one which I find extremely interesting is Dolly. Now, Dolly in herself is a doll animatronic created by Edwin Murray, used for the recycling and the goal of saving money and going green in the 1970s. Interestingly enough, she's very similar to a Funtime animatronic, but that's a story for another video. When we first see her, she's clearly on this predetermined path, like a train. She then gets hijacked by the Mimic, which allows her to freely move around. That's a pretty open and shut case. She's not possessed, she's not haunted, she's literally hijacked by the Mimic, right? But then things take a little strange turn, because remember, at the end, we dump her into this pool of what seems to be molten lava. Very reminiscent of that scene from Terminator 2. But the interesting thing here is, she doesn't seem to just disappear in this molten lava. She smashes through the side of a wall and is still alive, with the Mimic allegedly still in her costume. Now, if that was really molten lava, I'm pretty sure she would have disintegrated, right? Which leads me to believe this isn't molten lava circulating through the MCM factory. We see it numerous times below the factory even as the power source to the entire underground facility and the factory. That would have been there for decades potentially. Edwin Murray didn't set that up, that must have been his father. But the interesting thing here is everything which is in this lava has come from old recycled materials. Old recycled animatronics potentially, melted down into a substance. Does this sound familiar? And if it was truly molten lava, how would it be piped through the entire facility? I mean, them pipes would have to have a pretty high heat resistance to constantly be pumping around molten lava. You see, I don't believe it's actually molten lava at all, coupled with the fact that they're obviously melting down old animatronic parts, whether they're haunted or not. Who really knows? But that substance could be an early form of remnant here. and anything which it gets pumped into, or something which falls into it, could then considered to be powered by Remnant, I suppose. Now, I know that Remnant theory is pretty wild, and I'm not going to use that as evidence for Dolly to be haunted or possessed. I would just like to point that out, because I think that's extremely interesting, and a nice bit of evidence for something coming up later. And any other theories you guys have as well, which you can take and use for yourselves. But we've still got plenty of other animatronics to talk about, and one specifically I know will blow your minds. So with that being said, let's talk about Tiger Rock. Now, everyone has their own opinion on Tiger Rock being haunted, not being haunted. For me, I think there's a strong case to clearly state that Tiger Rock is indeed haunted. And I'm pretty confident in saying most people agree with that. I mean, Tiger Rock literally teleports around the basement, gives you the golden Freddy stare, appears on your screen left and right, a clear sign of possession and supernatural abilities. And I know you have to ask the question, well, who is Tiger Rock haunted by? And again, everyone I think agrees David is haunting Tiger Rock. Now, how they get to that haunting takes many forms. Some people believe he was hit by a van outside, playing in the park. Some people believe he was hit by the giant moon head falling through the ceiling with him inside of it, crushing him. Myself, I have a more interesting theory than all of them. I believe he was killed by M1, but that's been discussed in other videos. What hasn't been discussed though would be M1's motive, and clearly her motive would be to look after a child. And I know you're probably thinking, well, what does that mean? Well, eventually David would grow up, right? So in M1's mind, in her programming / sentience, whatever you want to call her, he will grow up. Therefore, she will not be able to fulfill her programming. So to stop that happening, she would literally kill David, make him into a robot version / M2, which she could look after forever. In her own twisted way, that fulfills her programming indefinitely. And by machine logic, that's probably what they would do, right? But I just wanted to quickly cover that off. So to get back on track, yes, Tiger Rock for me is definitely haunted. But here's a really big one which confused me at the start. And that is Big Top. And I know you'll probably say Big Top is controlled by the Mimic, Ratatouille style. I mean, the Mimic would have to be in Ratatouille's head, controlling him from all type of levers and levers, right? I mean, because Big Top is massive. Sure, you could say the Mimic could stretch, but we don't actually see the Mimic's arms in Big Top's limbs. So the only way I could see Mimic controlling Big Top would be from that hat with all levers inside of it. Therefore, he wouldn't be possessed, right? Let's rewind a second here. You see, this isn't a straightforward case. There's a big mystery going on here. Think back to the Big Top section. There's one thing which sticks out massively, and that's all of them like mannequins we see. Not only do they seem to move around at a flash, they make weird like whispering sounds and noises, and regularly change on their own. Now, that is clearly some type of supernatural behavior. And I know I'm going to stop you right there before you even think about it, and I'm going to address this immediately. Someone will say, oh, well, Arnold's been awake, 52 hours, like he says at the beginning of the game. He could be hallucinating.
Well, since you asked, I just finished a 36-hour shift, and I'm struggling to stay awake.
That is a massive cop-out, and you could literally say that about any part of the game using that logic if you wanted to. Oh, he's been awake 52 hours, he's hallucinating the Mimic. Oh, he's been awake another 52 hours, he's hallucinating everything which happened in game. And then he woke up asleep in his van. Ugh. No, let's throw that out immediately because that just doesn't fly. So the supernatural influence around Big Top and Big Top's area to me is 100% genuine. But where would it even come from? Well, we literally know next door is the Sleepy Time showroom. You know, where the moon head has clearly fallen from the ceiling, gone down to the basement, where we see Sleepy Moon below. Well, it's highly likely when that moon fell from the ceiling, it hit somebody, because in a log just outside of the room, it tells us that they are basically being sued. There's an insurance claim going through, i.e. someone has sued them. They'd been hit or potentially even killed by the collapse of this moon. Could have been debris, could have been the moon itself, but either way you look at it, someone potentially has died in that room, meaning their spirit would be anchored around that area, right? Could easily go into the closest animatronic / costume, Big Top. Whether it's an adult or child, I still believe that to be the case. And if you wanted to, that could explain why Big Top then doesn't seem to have any Mimic influence. I mean, we don't see the Mimic's arms, limbs, etc. inside of Big Top. I mean, usually if we see a Mimic influence Tops in any type of costume or mascot, we'd see the eyes somewhere, right? And you can clearly see Big Top's eyes. They're massive. I think the only indication to say that if Mimic was in there is that they turn like an orangey color to say that the Mimic's in Big Top. Now, it doesn't rule out possession because the Mimic could literally be inside of the costume while the costume is still possessed. Look at Tiger Rock. People still believe that the Mimic goes inside of Tiger Rock whilst David is haunting it. There's a double possibility there. Either way, we know Big Top's area and around Big Top is extremely supernatural down to their mannequins. That would have to come from somewhere. And the only explanation I can give is the spirits from next door where that head fell. So actually, I believe it to be a mixture of both. Kind of like the FNAF 1 animatronics, you know, where they're influenced by their AI programming and the kids' souls inside of them. I mean, that explains why they go back to the stage at 6 AM, power down, etc, etc. It's a mixture of the souls and AI, which brings me full circle back to M1. You see, many people believe that M1 is haunted by Fiona. But if she was haunted by Fiona, wouldn't she have to die in close vicinity to M1 to possess the animatronic? Well, not really. That isn't actually how possession works. We also know that souls can travel, you know, because it's wildly believed that Fiona died at Fall Fest. And if that was the case, she'd be nowhere close to an M1 animatronic, unless M1 was in the close vicinity to Fall Fest itself, which I find unlikely. So if Fiona does possess M1, the only way she'd be able to do so was to travel and possess it that way. Do we actually have any evidence to suggest that Fiona is in M1? I mean, we've kind of debunked the log now, despite it seeming like her voice was coming through the machine. We clearly know that was a pre-recorded message. I mean, something has to be happening with M1, right? This is Five Nights at Freddy's. I mean, if there was no haunted spirits in any of these animatronics, mascot costumes, whatever you want to call them, shouldn't it now be Five Nights at AIs? I mean, there's no possession or anything. It's just an AI storytelling device now. So surely there has to be an element of the supernatural and hauntings. Otherwise, it is not Five Nights at Freddy's. The game is leading us down a path which tries to tell us that for whatever reason, M1 just works. M2 didn't, but M1 does. We know she's extremely like Fiona. That could be a mimicking ability, but she's almost sentient-like. And Edwin wasn't able to replicate this ever. He just doesn't know how to do it, which tells me something else has happened to M1. But let's look at this factually. We're never explicitly told how Fiona dies. We're just coming to the conclusion that she died at a fire at Fall Fest because she says that she went to Fall Fest to kind of like look after it. So we all assume she died there, but it's never actually said. Could she have actually died at home or close to the factory? But hold it right there, objection. I do have a way how M1 could actually be possessed. It could literally be Edwin's agony possessing it. I mean, he was working on M1 literally just after his wife died. He was probably grieving heavily. That's how he then was able to somehow communicate with the Marsilia men on frequency 4625. His grief then gets poured into M1 when he is working on it. Edwin's grief is fueling that M1 animatronic. Similarly, the same thing happens with M2. Edwin beats it, infusing his agony into the animatronic. Surely it's the same logic. I mean, Edwin beat the animatronic, infusing his agony into it. Surely we could have the same case here when he was building M1, infusing all his grief, his other side of agony into this animatronic, making it again seem more sentient, etc, etc. Boom, problem solved. M1 isn't haunted by the spirit of Fiona as such, it's Edwin's agony again, coming back to literally haunt him. Surely Edwin thinks that M1 is possessed. I mean, he's starting to believe that, right? But that isn't the case. It was Edwin's grief, agony, fueling it the first time, just like it fueled it the second time when he beat the animatronic. So in actual fact, yes, Secret of the Mimic does have haunted animatronics / costumes. It's just a little bit more complicated than we first thought. And I would like to come back and visit Big Top for a definitive answer, because I find that fascinating, especially the area around it with all their mannequins. Do you guys have any theories? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed the video, hit the like button, it really helps me out, and subscribe for plenty more FNAF content. There's loads coming up, and there's loads on the channel. Go and check them out after this. A massive thanks to the Fazbear Entertainment employees on screen now. Lauren, Rena Fox, Ritsu Azisu, and Queen Bubbles, and our Twisted Fazbear CEOs, Penguin Lover 12 and Rock Nigel. Thanks guys, and if you want to join the program, consider becoming a YouTube member. I'm Twisted Animatronic. Stay safe out there, superstars.